Hey friends, it's Jennifer. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm back today with card number 11. And if you want to see how I chose to do my cards this year, I will link that in the cards up above. But I did draw out two prompts for this week, and it's notebook paper and plastic. And you can see I've got some notebook paper here, and I've got a plastic shopping bag. So we'll see how it works. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut out a piece of this plastic bag. I've never done this before, this part with plastic. I have seen different things where people take plastic and they melt it down. I've never personally done that before, but we're going to try this as a first. So I'm just going to cut out a piece of this plastic on this bag, and I'm going to take some glue and I'm going to put a layer of glue down on this card. And then I'm just going to lay the plastic down on it and try to work it with my heat gun. That way I can kind of control maybe how it's going to go. I don't really know, so we're just going to see. So of course I just started out on a lower setting. And you can see after a little bit it just kind of curled up those edges, but it did stick to the card. So I was okay with that. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut around the edges there, the excess, cut that off. And so now I'm just going to take my crocodile punch, my corner punch, and I'm just going to punch off those edges. And the only other rule that I have for March is that everything has to be green, the color green, or mostly green. Green color is going to be incorporated into this month's cards. So I'm just taking this green and I'm painting it over top of this plastic. And again, I'm going to use my heat gun on a low setting and just kind of dry that up. And it looks pretty good. It stuck to it really well. And so now I'm just going to add another layer to it. I still want to be able to see through it, but I would like to add some more of that green color on there. So I'm just dabbing it on here and just using my heat gun to dry with. Now I've got this pretty little paper here and I'm going to tear it off and use it on the front of the page. I'm just going to ink the sides and I'm just going to glue this down. Now I've got this extra piece of plastic that I cut off the top of that, and I decide why not? I'm just going to put it down too. So I just do the same thing that I did before. Just going to apply some glue and I'm going to lay the plastic down and I'm going to take my heat gun on a very low setting and try to dry that up and see what happens. And I'm going to hold the card up this time and you can see it automatically shrinks those edges around it, which actually looks pretty good. You can still see through the card, see the words on the card. So I'm going to trim those edges off as well. So now let's take out my notebook paper. I'm just going to size it up, kind of figure out the size on the card, and I'm just going to rip it up and I'm going to glue it down. And at this point, I'm thinking I might write something on the notebook paper. Not sure what yet, but it would be pretty to incorporate my own handwriting in this card. So I'm just going to trim these edges up. And so I need a heart for the card because if you've been watching me, I'm putting a heart on everything that I do this year to remind me to love myself, love others, and love my work better. And so you can see I'm just kind of trying to cut out this heart here. I'm going to go ahead and ink around it. Not sure about it yet, but that's what I'm doing here. And so here is where I'm going to write. And I wrote, I may not be perfect, but parts of me are pretty awesome. And so I've decided that the heart is not enough by itself. So I'm just going to take some scrap of this blue paper that I have, and I'm just going to trace around it and make it a little bit bigger than the heart that I've already cut out, and then trim that out. And so I'm going to ink around the outer edge, and then I'm just going to glue them together. And then wouldn't you know it, it's a little too big. So I'm going to go back in here and just trim around the outer edge just to make it still bigger than the other heart. But just keep trimming it down until I get the perfect size there. And so once that's done, I'm going to glue it down in place. I'm just going to hold it in place with a sewing clip. Now I'm going to take one of my favorite things, which is an oil pastel crayon. And I'm just going to trace around the torn edge of the notebook paper and just smear that out with my finger. And of course around the heart a little bit. And so I like this, but I feel like it needs a little something else there. So I'm going to take this yarn, this scrap piece of yarn that I have, and I'm going to tie it into a bow. And I'm going to glue it down at the top of the card. Just with a little dab of hot glue. And so I'm going to trim those edges, and then I'm going to untwirl the edges of the yarn and just split them into the smaller thread pieces that make up the cord of the yarn, just to spread those out a little bit. And I'm writing the card and the date on the back of the card. And I'm going to ink around the edges. And here it is. Card number 11. We've got the plastic and notebook paper. And I hope this gave you some inspiration to make your own playing cards. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you the next time.